Hi everyone. Well, welcome to our crowdcast hosted by Charles Fairham of Canada. Very nice to have you all here today. We're going to talk about a new hop that we've developed, and that 5 brewers in Canada, or 4 brewers in a teaching college in Canada, have brewed with using different styles of beer, different brewing techniques, all using this same brand new hop. And we're going to have a good talk about what we think about it. So very, very welcome. Please, if you do have any questions, you can throw them up and we'll see if we've got some time to talk about those afterwards. So just a little bit about Charles Fairham. We are hop merchants who started up in the UK in 1865, so fairly well established over there. And then in recent years, we've moved to offices and a warehouse in the US, and we moved an operation into Canada in 2014. So we've been supplying breweries all around the world for 130 something years, and specifically from in Canada, from Toronto, since 2014. So this is a kind of another big step on that journey for 136 years. Is hops that we've developed from our own development program, and this is the first time that this particular variety, Harlequin, is going to be has been brewed with in Canada. We're looking forward to getting some feedback, seeing what these beers taste like, and see where we can push it forward. So I'd just like to introduce my colleague Sawchuck, who's organised a lot of this event. He's going to talk a little bit more about the development program, about the hop, and a little bit more about what we're going to do today. So over to you, Shane.
Thanks, Ben. Let me start by saying there are very few undiscovered hops. Most of the hops that we know of as new are crosses of hops that we've been brewing with for hundreds of years. And because of this, hop development programs are really important to the brewing industry. As you all know, drinkers are always looking for something new, and brewers are looking for sort of an ever-expanding ingredient selection to accommodate that demand. Roots of the Charles Fairham Hop Development Program started back in 2006 with a man by the name of Peter Glendinning. Peter is a research agronomist, and he had been collecting samples of unique wild hops that were growing on a hop farm neighboring his house. Peter had begun talking to Paul Corbett. I believe Paul is in the room. He's the managing director of Charles Fairham, and they were speaking about the possible future of a new proprietary breeding program based in the UK. The two had agreed to collaborate, and Peter now is in charge of the newly founded Charles Fairham Hop Development Program. So Paul expresses his desire to see the equivalent of US super aroma varieties grown in the UK, things like Citra, Simcoe, Mosaic. Peter tells him it's impossible due to climate, and then Peter immediately sets out to prove himself wrong. He begins crossbreeding Cascade in an attempt to create something new. Paul had been impressed by his results, and in 2012, Minstrel was released as our first proprietary hop. This was followed by Jester and Archer, both released in 2013, Olicana, which was released in 2014, Godiva in 2016, Mystic in 2018, and now Harlequin. So Peter's trials, they led him to the conclusion, and that conclusion was that the inbreeding of hops created some really unexpected increases in desirable characteristics in the progeny. Some examples show much higher levels of alpha acids and essential oils compared to their parentage. And through careful selection, he's able to now pick the most agronomically viable of these outliers and introduce those into the breeding program. So using this methodology, he came across a daughter of Godiva in 2015, and this is what was quickly fast-tracked and became Harlequin as we know it today. So this was a single plant in 2015. In 2017, we had 40 kilos of Harlequin, and we expect 5 farms on which Harlequin is planted to produce 24 acres of hops this year. As the development program continues to grow, it's expanding its experimentation into other countries. The next hop that will be commercially available is Most, and that's a collaborative effort with some Czech growers, and it will mark the development program's first commercially available hop that is not grown in the UK. Now, chemical analysis can be used to determine a hop's brewing potential to a degree, but the best way to find out if they're good for brewing is to actually use them. This is why you, the brewers, are such an essential part of the development program. Your feedback from trial brews like this goes a long way to improve our understanding of our own product and the diversity of its applications, what we can do with it. It helps us bring new hops to market faster. Your partnership is the last step in our process of taking a hop from test seedling to flavorful ingredient, and we want to thank you for your participation. So for our guests who were not involved in brewing a beer for this event, just so you know, there were no restrictions put upon the brewers, only that their beers must contain Harlequin hops, and that no two brewers could make the same style. Harlequin hops have an alpha acid content from 9 to 12% and a total oil content of 1 to 1.6 milliliters per 100 grams. I'm not going to spoil the flavor and aroma descriptors for you because I think we're about to find out what they are. So thanks again for everyone here for helping us celebrate Harlequin's first year in Canada. We're going to be calling the speakers up one by one, and we're going to be starting with James. I think Ben just had one more thing he wanted to say before we move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that, Shane. So, yes, if we can, as Shane just kind of mentioned, this is doing this sort of experiment is a crucial part of our development program. Historically, development programs used to take decades to bring a hop from seedling to sort of commercial production, and the world moves a little bit quicker like that, and fashions change and tastes change, and we need to be a little bit more responsive. And so part of our development program, part of the kind of the ethos of it, is to take risks as much as we can in partnership with brewers, and that means bringing hops forward much quicker than they normally would, and try and get them into the hands of brewers and see what works. And we, as often as not, you find things don't work. But it's going to be fascinating to see here that we've got 5 quite different beers, and I'm not going to expect that all 5 of them are going to be amazing, and they're all going to teach us lots of different things about the hop, how it works. And I'm really looking forward to it. So as each of you sort of come up, if you can explain a little bit about the beer style, and also how you kind of came to choose that style, whether that's a sort of house style of yours, or you were sort of led by the hop as to where you wanted to go, or so what your reasoning was behind the style you chose. And then a little bit about the beer itself. So it's sort of some of the specs, the ABV, the IBU. Also, crucially, how you're using Harlequin in the brew. So you don't need to know the exact recipe, but sort of roughly sort of the volumes and quantities you're using, and crucially where you're using them in the brew. And then a little bit, if you can, about what you thought about Harlequin when you were assessing it, when we kind of sent you samples, so what the Harlequin was like on the rub, and then how that's transferred across to the sort of final beer. It's a funny bit of the sort of, for a brewer to try and get that sort of alchemy together of, well, here are my ingredients, this is what I've got here, can I, what's going to happen when I've pushed that through a brew house, and all the other factors come in. So yeah, just if there's any sort of difference between what you thought you were going to get from the rub and your expectations and your impressions then, and then what you did in the final beer. Just don't want to be too prescriptive. We want to just for you guys to talk about what you brewed. But we'll start off with James from Burdock. Yeah, so if you can tell us about the beer you've made, and for those of us who've lucky to got that beer in front of them, this would now be a good time to crack it. So we're starting with this one here. Okay, James, over to you.
Thank you. My name is James Turco. I'm the production manager here at Burdock Brewing Company, and we're a small kind of brew pub on the West End in Toronto. And we decided to make a dry hopped quick sour. We make a lot of quick sours. We pretty much only make pale ales and quick sours, and then weird stuff. And so we thought it'd be an interesting one to try in that process. And so this beer, we definitely went with something a little on the lower ABV end. It's a 4%. We're also these days kind of skewing towards session stuff and a little lower ABV. So it's a Templeto base, all environment pale malt, and it's 0 IBU because our quick sour process, we don't put any hops in the kettle. We run it out to the tank at 40 Celsius, and then we pitch our lactoculture, give it about a day, 24 hours, and then we oxygenate, pitch the yeast, and dry hop kind of all at once on day 0. we did a rub on this, and we really liked it. It had a lot of tropical, a little citrus, a little bit of stone fruit kind of character. It definitely seemed New World. I would not have guessed it was from the UK if you just gave it to me. And so we went for kind of our high end of dry hopping, which for us is about a kilo a heck. So 15 heck batch, roughly about 15 kilos of dry hop right off the chute. And in other dry hop sours, that's about our rate, and we tend to get a lot of hop character when we go there. And then maybe 10 days into fermentation, it wasn't as brilliant as we would have maybe hoped, and so we put in we did 5 kilos of Citra on top. So and then finished it out and carved it up and packaged it. And I thought that really kind of, that little bit of Citra, I mean, Citra is kind of a cheat code, but I thought it really made the Harlequin based characteristics really kind of pop. The one thing I didn't think I'd get in it that I definitely did get in it is there was kind of a savory note.
Okay.
It's kind of hard to describe, but one of my brewers thought he swore it was tahini.
That's a new one. Okay.
Yeah, and I don't know. He's always got a weird tasting note, but it definitely does have something that you wouldn't have expected from the rub, and I'm not sure if that's because of our process or what, but it was interesting. Overall, I'm happy with the beer. I think it'd be interesting to have not added that Citra and seen what the final product was. But, yeah, I definitely liked it.
Great. Yeah, you can just taste that Citra on the sort of back end, but it's there's definitely something else in there as well. It's got a beautiful aroma. As soon as I crack that can, beautiful aroma running through the room. Excellent. So it's something you think you would try again, but perhaps as a single hop next time? Or?
I think so. I'd be curious. We don't do a lot of single hop stuff here. Everything's kind of a blend usually to try to, whether it's because one crop year wasn't what we thought or because we're looking for a certain something. I think we like lately we've been using a lot of Vic's Secret here as well. I would be very curious to see this with something like Vic, something on the real heavy like fruit end of the spectrum, or even like an El Dorado sort of note there. I think that'd be really interesting.
Something a bit more dank.
I think be curious to see where it played with either end of that spectrum. And for us, like our flagship quick sour is a blend of Citra, El Dorado, and Vic is the dry hop. And so I'd kind of be curious if you took out the Citra and did Harlequin, El Dorado, and Vic, what that would kind of look like. And I bet it'd be really neat.
Absolutely. Well, we'll see if we can get some hold of a little more, and you can have a go. Absolutely. Yeah, sounds a good experiment. Excellent.
Yeah, I think it's always nice to, even though you do get sort of a true sense of the hop in single hop applications. It is good to know what types of hops pair well with any given variety, because it's somewhat rare that you actually make a single hop beer unless you're just setting out to do it. You're always going to be mixing little bits of this and that to achieve exactly what you're after, and having some sort of direction to head in is nice. Knowing that maybe Harlequin needs a little bit of a dank supplement. If you are heading down the road of pairing with something, it's a good place to start.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's a fantastic start. Those who know me will be laughing to hear that I'm praising a sour beer, but actually that's extremely drinkable. I could quite happily drink that. It's beautiful.
Cheers.
Thank you.
So,
great.
I think next up we have Niagara College. If the guests would give us a minute, Crowdcast will only let us have so many speakers up at once, so we'll have to take a moment to, James will have to step down, and we'll have to get Mr. John Downing up here.
Many thanks, James. Speak to you in a bit.
Thanks.
Hello, John.
Hello, how's it going?
Very well, thank you.
James, that beer is delicious. I love that. I love the character that comes through, the hop that comes through at the end there. It's just really, really excellent. Excellent job.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's superbly drinkable that beer. Right, but yes, we better move on to the beer you've created.
Okay, well, sorry.
That's So you're a little different from our other guests here in that you're not a commercial brewery, so to speak. But yeah, so you can tell us a little bit. Well, sorry, yes, you are a commercial brewery, sorry, but yes, you do have another string to your bow as well. So if you can tell us a little bit about who you are and where you're from, and then the beer, that'd be great.
Sure. Yeah, we are actually a commercial brewery. We're fully licensed in Ontario. Every drop of beer that we make here at the college is sold. Every beer that the students put together, all the project brews, target brews, everything they're all sold. So the money goes back into the program, into the college, so we can be training more and more brewers as we go along. But I'm John Downing. I'm the brewmaster here at Niagara College. We basically chose a fairly straightforward and I thought a very clean style to highlight this hop. Decided to do a Kolsch, a traditional Kolsch. Obviously, the style is a lagered ale from Midwestern Germany, I guess. An excellent beer. Tends to be fairly light body. Tends to be pretty thirst quenching, a summer style beer. So it has to have a fairly delicate character to it. It's effectively a lagered ale, and we used very very straightforward, very traditional recipe from Cologne, in fact, using Pilsner malt, wheat malt, Carapils malt, and acidulated malt to get our base down. And then again, very straightforward and similar hopping, a good boil hop, a solid middle hop. I did go a little bit crazier on the finish and added in like 3 times the normal amount that you do to a Kolsch, but that was just to obviously highlight the Harlequin and see what it would do as the main driver of that part of the beer, because the rest of the beer is a fairly normal, straightforward beer. Started at 10.55, finished around 10.12, so we got about 5.6% ABV. I was aiming for a 23 bitterness and color of about 2.7 to 3. So the color came out pretty good. Aroma, characteristics, it's all there. What I really liked about the Harlequin, the beer came out to style, apart from, again, the aroma at the end. It's a little bit more aromatic. What I really liked about the Harlequin in this beer was the first 2 hops. The finish, the aroma comes out beautifully. It's got that little tropical note. I got a ton of pineapple, a tiny hint of banana coming in too, but I have a feeling that could have been a bit to do with our fermentation. We were a little bit warm for a couple of days on a Kolsch. We got it up to like 16, 17, and normally we do them down around 12 to 14. But that would probably get that isoamyl acetate out of there a little bit with that yeast. We used the Lauermann Kolsch yeast, so it's known to sometimes give that little attribute if you get it too warm. But that was an interesting reaction from the interaction with the yeast. But the Harlequin I found for the bitterness was superb, very clean, very crisp. Came right on target, right on our numbers for getting the bitterness out. It's there. It's balanced on your palate. You can taste it all the way through. It's not offensive. It's not overpowering. It balances perfectly well with the very light Kolsch body, and the wheat even comes through on that mouthfeel as well. And for the taste in the middle, again, that Harlequin to us definitely get a little bit of pineapple on that taste. Kolsches are known for being more herbal and woodsy, whereas we're definitely getting more of the tropical tastes coming through in the middle there. And then, basically pineapple, banana on the finish. Came through very clear to us when the students were tasting it. And this beer was made, I designed the recipe, and the students, the first and second semester students both collaborated on brewing this beer. They had 2 days in the brewery, basically made one half the batch one day and then topped it up with the second half the next day. So a lot of students got involved. We got them all to have a little fun with the hop rub, and the comments were exactly as James said, and as the blurb says. We got passion fruit, we got peach, we got pineapple, but again, we got a little bit of stone fruit coming in there. Some got a little earthy characteristics coming through as well. That would probably be more, in tune with being a British hop as opposed to being a North American style. But very, very true, very good, very clean. It was a great hop to work with. We hit all of our numbers. We hit all of our tastes and flavors, apart from that one little bit of banana that comes through, at least to our palates. But of course, that can be, I'd be interested to hear what other people think about what this came out like.
Absolutely. That's thank you very much for that, John. Yeah, I got quite a lot of peach actually when I first cracked it. I've got some sort of pink peach notes quite nicely on there, and it's it is a sort of these are still grown in the UK. So as much as we kind of don't think that we're presenting them as New World, they are still grown in a UK climate, which is mostly cloudy and mostly rainy, as you know. So there was always going to be a little element of that, those kind of traditional UK hops, that sort of herbal, earthy characteristics. But also, I think it brings in a big drinkability. As James was saying earlier, you're not getting the dankness that you can do in some New World varieties, which sometimes you want, sometimes you don't want. And I think it's displayed quite nicely here, certainly in the style, and like a Kolsch in this beer in particular, where you need that lightness, you need that drinkability, but it does have some really nice fruit characteristics in there as well. So I think it's a good showcase for that. And nice to see a hop, a sort of brand new hop in the hands of so many new brewers.
We've used for our Kolsch's in the past. We've used like Mandarina Bavaria and Whole Melon to give us that almost tropical fruity flavors at the end. And everybody agreed that this gave a much nicer finish and a much nicer, brighter taste and aroma. So that's something good. It will probably make some Germans turn in their graves, but it certainly makes us happy over here.
Well, we'll see shortly, because one of the other brewers coming up did actually brew Kolsch for a number of years in Cologne. So we will see what Phil from Mississippi has to say when we get around to him. You're probably talking more about this beer than his own. Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to add, John?
No, the students had a lot of fun using this, and they were very happy to be a part of it. Trying something new, being on the cutting edge of, and working with these other breweries that are taking part in this too. So they had a lot of fun making these beers and learning about the hops, rubbing them, tasting them, smelling them. The finished product all the way through. It was great. Thank you.
Great. That's fantastic to hear. That's superb. Okay. Many thanks, John.
Cheers.
Thank you very much, John.
Okay.
Yeah, as a grad, it seems nice to be able to invite the college to participate in this event, and it's good to feel like we're giving back a little bit. So we're happy to have you.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. So up next we have Mike Cheatley from Amsterdam.
Hello. Perfect.
Hi, Mike.
Hey, can you hear me all right?
We certainly can. Yeah, absolutely.
Wonderful. Just jumping right into it. My name is Mike Cheatley. I'm the innovation brewer here at Amsterdam Brewery in Toronto. Basically when you guys sent us that hop, we did a hop rub. We're like, whoa, that's some pretty crazy fruit off the start. So it felt very easy to do something like like a West Coast or New England style IPA, but we basically decided to go for a British golden ale. And the thinking behind that was mostly because we wanted to kind of create a bit more of a blank canvas to see how this hop would perform in maybe a more subtle context. The recipe itself is quite simple. It's 100% crisp Maris Otter, and then just Harlequin that we kind of layered throughout the boil, and then with a small dry hop. It's about 28 IBUs. The ABV is around 4.9%. We did hopping at the start, so like 12 IBUs, bitterness. There's a little bit of flavor hops with the last 10 minutes in the boil, as well as a small charge in the whirlpool. And this was actually down at our brew pub, so we did a 15 hectoliter batch. And the other cool thing that we did with this is we did a dry hop before the beer was done fermenting. So this is something we've been, or sorry, before it's finished fermenting rather. This is something we've been kind of experimenting with a bit more because we're trying to see what kind of biotransformation we can get as the hop oils interact with yeast. So that was about 1 to 2 degrees Plato from terminal is when we added about a charge of 3 kilograms of hops for a 15 hectoliter batch. Really happy with the results on this. Something we've noticed too, just anecdotally, is we've been seeing the mouthfeel change a little bit by dry hopping in this process. Obviously, it has the added benefit of you're not adding too much oxygen into your beer because the yeast is able to kind of take up that quite quickly. In terms of the beer, like I think like you'll notice that like we tried to make it very balanced, so you can actually get a lot of Maris Otter on the beer as well. So I think this hop did very well in terms of in terms of like a more subtle style. Like I think it would have been very easy to do like a West Coast or a hazy beer with this, but I was quite pleased with how it performed in a more subtler context. But you're still getting some of those like citrus notes that you would try to hopefully expect from like a British style golden ale. Definitely a little stone fruit and peach. But yeah, it's again, I think for this, it's like really just trying to create a blank canvas with good ingredients and kind of make sure you just nail your process so that you're kind of getting out of the way. So I think we did a pretty good job with this one. It's quite sessionable. I love drinking British pales and British ESBs and golden ales, so it's partially, a selfish reason that we chose this style.
Quite right. No, that's if the brewer's got to love the beer he's making or he or she's making, absolutely. That's definitely makes the beer better. I think it is superbly balanced, and I think as you say there, you're just part of the brewer's job is just letting the ingredients sing. We're lucky enough to have Chris Maris Otter and these lots of great ingredients, and I think brought them together to make something which shows them all off to their best. Really, I think there's a very enticing aroma in there. It's not it's not a huge wallop of fruit, but it's really enticing. You sort of bring it and you're going to have to go in again. And I think I did actually crack one of these open last night, and it lasted. I did mean to kind of spend quite a lot of time kind of thinking about it and writing notes, and it lasted about 5 minutes because it was so tasty. So and it's very interesting to see again that the biotransformation part of things, which is we're brewers all around the world are experimenting with more and really starting to play with, and as much as the brewer can put these ingredients together, we're really only kind of just putting together. It's really when the yeast starts getting involved that actually all the magic starts happening. And I think it's very interesting to see those different characteristics when it really starts interacting with the yeast. Coming out.
I'm pretty excited to try this hop in more of like a traditional kind of like hazy style IPA, which I expect we'll probably do in the next month or so. Just because I think it is what's cool about it is versatile. It does, to me, it seems very versatile in that you can go both directions with it on a subtle side as well as a more bolder side. One thing we did have, like, I also like that there's a bit of a point of difference too from the UK grown hops, because there is. I know James at Burdock was mentioning there is like that classic British earthy note that kind of is in the background on this. Yep. So even just as a point of difference from something you might get in the Pacific Northwest, this is kind of a cool note to play with, and especially if you're leaning into more, updated versions of English IPAs. It's kind of fun to play with in that sense.
And it is, it is different. There is, to a degree. Brewers have kind of got, Citra, for instance, or Cascade or Centennial, as much as they can be, are sort of unknown quantities, as are EKG or Fuggles or Bramley and Cross. Brewers have been working with these for decades, if not centuries. So there's a accumulated knowledge about those. Whereas as hops like this, you can't quite categorize them in that same way. They, as you say, they can be used in different ways. They have characteristics of both. And it's fascinating and fun to be able to see brewers kind of play with them and kind of go, okay, well, this is what we've got in front of us. Let's see what we can do with them. And did you said that when you were assessing them, when you were rubbing them beforehand, you were quite kind of excited about the flavors and the aromas coming off. Were your expectations met, or exceeded, or not?
I definitely met. I think just because it was the first rub I did in the samples that you sent, Cody and I rubbed them, and it was just like huge flavor right off the bat. So, I mean, it felt like we had to restrain ourselves by putting it in a golden ale because we didn't want to pound it and just overwhelm the beer. You know, it's still about making a very highly drinkable, balanced beer. But I think it did carry through. I find in the beer the mid palate of that beer has got a nice juiciness to it, which kind of finishes it out with that kind of bitterness, kind of like ties it up together and makes it more drinkable. So that could be from the I assume that Harlequin played a big part in that, and that could have been partially from the biotrans dry hop. Adding that, we've kind of noticed that mouthfeel kind of increasing, and it's definitely. I was very excited about it. I'm excited to try it in a different context, but also to do something very similar to what this beer is that we made again. So.
Yeah, excellent. Well, I'm big fan of that. Thank you very much for that. That's a fabulous beer. Right, is there anything else you'd like to add?
We've actually got a question from Paul. Paul's wondering how you feel it would fare in a West Coast IPA.
I don't see why it wouldn't do great, honestly. Again, it's nailing a process that the hop smells incredible, like the fruit notes on that. I think, it would do very well. Just locking in your balance. So
great, thank you.
Excellent. Okay, many thanks, Mike. Appreciate that. Cheers.
Okay, so up next we have Mr. Nick Perry from Great Lakes. I hope.
Yep.
There he is.
Hi, everybody. Excuse me.
Hey, Nick.
My name is Nick Perry. I'm a brewer at Great Lakes. I work mainly on our what we call our pilot system. They're branded as our 7-barrel series beers, even though the pilot system's a little bit bigger than that now. But that was the original size of the pilot system that we got a few years ago. So for this beer, we decided it was kind of fun that this was an English-grown interpretation, sort of a North American hop style. So we wanted to play with that, and we wanted to do sort of a North American interpretation of a British style. So we were playing around with that idea, and when we were rubbing the hops, we got like other brewers have said already, a lot of tropical fruit aromas. And the one thing that really struck us was a sort of orange zest kind of aroma, almost like a marmalade even. So then the idea came to do an American brown ale and sort of play with that orange dark chocolate idea. And we've brewed an English style brown ale in the past. So we played with that recipe, tweaked it a little bit, and made it a little bit higher ABV. I think the English one we do is 5%. This one's 5.5%. And then we played around with the hopping, and we used a 50-50 mix of the Harlequin with some Celia. My understanding is Celia is Slovenian-grown Goldings relative or something like that.
Fuggles.
Okay.
Fuggles was about 150 years ago, so it's become its own thing now. But originally Fuggles.
Yeah. And also, just back to the Harlequin, on the rub, and I think it comes through in the beer as well. Like a couple of other people have mentioned, I noticed some of that sort of earthiness kind of in the background that you sort of expect from English hops. And I thought it was really cool the way that sort of citrus tropical fruit thing played with that. And yeah, I thought it came through nicely in the beer. So obviously it's a pretty malty beer. We've got some crystal malt and some dark roasted malts. We like to use pale chocolate. I find you get a really nice chocolate flavor from that as far as the malt. And then for hopping rate, it was a 15 hect batch, and we used about 5 kilos of hops in the whirlpool. So no bittering or aroma additions, just right at the end of the boil, or right as soon as we turn the flame off for the whirlpool. And then I think there was about 10 kilos dry hopping. So it's about 2/3 of a kilo per hec in terms of the hop ratio. And again, it was a 50-50 split. We kind of thought it was fun to play on that sort of old world hop, new world hop together. And yeah, it was a really fun beer to make. And I think you were asking some of the other brewers about how the hop in the final beer met or how it was versus what you expected from the rub. And I think it comes through very much how I expected anyway. So that's a nice thing to have when you can smell the hop and you know what it's going to taste like in the beer. I mean, obviously it's fun when you get surprised too. And when you can learn
some of the time,
some of the time. That's one of the nice things about being a pilot brewer is that when surprises happen, it's fine. It's exciting and it's new, and we can learn from that. And if it's a repeatable surprise, then we can integrate that into future things, knowing how it's going to go. But it does make things easier when the flavors and aromas you're expecting come through in the finished beer. So yeah, I thought it was a great hop to work with, and I love to play around with it in some different styles and see what it can do.
Great. It was. I must admit, it wasn't the beer that I expected Great Lakes were going to choose. I thought Shane and I both said, "Well, Great Lakes will definitely do a pale ale." And then you came storming in with the dark. And that's
we do kind of get typecast, I guess, as the IPA and pale ale brewer. But if you come check out things happening at the brewery, we've got I think over 20 different styles available in our bottle shop right now. And we love to play around with all kinds of different stuff. So, and when we get given a challenge like this, it's kind of fun to do something that people aren't expecting.
Absolutely. And it's, it gives us invaluable feedback to see how it works and how it interacts with those darker malts. This is sort of, of the five, it's, certainly at that sort of end of the spectrum. And I think it plays really nicely. It's definitely it's a beautiful malt character in there, but there is kind of dancing across the top of it. Yeah, you do have this soft fruit, which makes it, as a whole, extremely drinkable. It's like dangerously drinkable, but it's a beautiful beer.
Thank you.
As I mentioned before, it's really nice to see the hop in different interactions with other hops and other ingredients too. You did mention the chocolate orange factor, which I think is a real deal in this beer. It does have that, that aftertaste. You're left kind of, oh, this is kind of nice. Like it's something different than you would expect. And it's always good to find specific hops that work with specific malts too. Right down to, like you said, light chocolate. Okay. We know that Harlequin with light chocolate, gives a little bit of this effect, and it's something people can work with. So it's awesome to get that kind of feedback for sure.
Excellent. Okay. Say again, sorry?
Sorry, anything else, Nick? Oh, he's already gone.
I guess not. Okay, well, that's great. It's, another... That actually surprised me, I must admit, that beer. And I thought originally when the brown ale was, my preconceptions about what Harlequin could do were changed by that beer. So that was a very nice surprise, that one.
Last but not least, we have Phil, who I believe is just going by German Phil these days. I was going to attempt his last name, but I think he'll probably do a better job of pronouncing it himself.
How's it going, guys?
Hey, Phil.
My name's Phil Chanky, or Kochanka in German, aka German Phil. It's a name I've had for a while here. I worked at Kitchissippi back in 2010, and it's stuck ever since. So throughout the last 10 years of brewing, it's been German Phil to an extent.
You presumably weren't called German Phil when you were working in Germany.
No, I was Canadian Phil, or the Canadian. Yeah,
absolutely. Okay, would you like to talk to us about your beer, Zany?
Sure. Yeah, so I took over as brewmaster here at Kitchissippi in September last year. So I've kind of hit the ground running and had to inherit, among other things, some pretty old equipment, which makes very good beer. But that said, the opportunity to not only be the first to try this hop and also try new styles with this brew house and kind of push the limit is a great opportunity, not only just for the creative side, but for getting to know what I'm doing here. So decided to go kind of back a few years in terms of the style of IPA that's not really popular anymore, and just keep it as sort of West Coast and dank as I could make it, with 8.5 IBU or 8.5% alcohol, 100 IBU calculated. Didn't do any lab testing, of course. So it's predominantly Chinook bitterness, and then a whack of the Zany and the Whirlpool, and 2 dry hop additions. And so with a limited quantity of 20 kilos, I still think it came through really nicely. Very, very fruity, very pineapple-y, and then followed up with a body that is chewy but not sticky, really nice color. And the Maris Otter was recommended to me by a good source, and it's 100% Maris Otter with a small amount of crystal malt to give it the color. The only thing I'd change is doing more dry hop, give it more bombastic fruit flavor, and we just ran out of hops basically.
Well, as a hop merchant, I'm extremely pleased to hear that add more hops is your plan going forward. That's the correct answer. Yeah. So you did go pretty big here. This raised a smile on our faces when we got the recipe through for this one, going for the 100 IBU. But yeah, I think it carries it. The beer's big enough to kind of cope with that.
I think personally with this one, I noticed the Harlequin showing a little bit of a different display than it did in the other beers. And the first thing I noticed when I drink this beer is, and I think it's related to the crystal malt sort of sweetness that you get, but it has this just tremendous like baked pineapple character to it, like just this, grilled, slow roasted, that type of thing. Like it's a very pineapple-y, jammy type character that I wasn't really picking up on the Harlequin in any of the other beers. So I thought that was kind of interesting in this case.
What struck me is I've now sipped my way through all the examples, and all of them have been great, and for all different reasons. But what's been noted is that earthy kind of British flavor of the hop, and I'm now picking up on that, and I didn't before. So we're more kind of just sticking our nose in the bag and rubbing the hops, and then throughout fermentation taking samples and getting the fruit, and the bitterness and the dankness. But I didn't actually pick up on the British stuff, the English taste until now, which is super cool actually. And you kind of see it in a theme as we're going through the different beer styles, and they're all kind of working off each other. That is a central theme that kind of comes through, and that was a nice surprise.
Excellent. It is. It's an interesting thing that we're playing with in the program. Is this sort of play between breeding and terroir and climate, and how that kind of changes things. And I think everyone has mentioned it's there that English hops or British hops have a character. This is what they are, and that's the beers you can brew with those. And German hops are what they are, and those are the beers you brew with those. But actually, there is a huge amount of middle ground. To a degree, you can brew any beer with any hop you like. And I think what this is kind of showing is there is actually a huge amount of play. There's a lot of room for brewers to have fun and kind of breaking down those barriers. and playing with different styles, playing with hops from around the world, and seeing what can work. It is dangerously drinkable for 8.5%. Yes, I'm very glad I'm at home and not having to drive later. But yeah, as Shane said, it has brought out a completely different character, a bit like the Great Lakes Brown Ale. It's that sort of that alcohol, that big IBU, all that crystal malt has kind of sucked out another little facet of Harlequin. And it's very interesting. It is. I'm gonna have to keep that out of arm's reach, I think, this one.
On a personal note, I've been feeding my father-in-law low fills and various dented cans and bottles for quite a while, and he's a big supporter of mine, which is very cool. But at the same time, he's 75 and he can't really taste so well anymore. So when it comes to beer, he's sipping double IPAs and don't tell my wife it's 6 to 8% kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I gave him some of these straight off the line, and later I get the text saying from his wife, please tell Phil that this is the best beer he's ever made. And I thought, well, fuck, I mean, that's, for someone who can't even taste, it's bitter, it's alcoholic, and it goes down. So what more can you want?
It's just, we need a testimonial from someone who has no taste buds. That's fantastic. No, but I take your point. That's good. Yeah, it's nice to see that. And it can hold up to a beer that big. It's can kind of play with a Kolsch, but also it can kind of come up and play with these as well. So it's that's very interesting to see. It doesn't get swamped, I don't think. That's a big beer, and it hasn't. But up for the fight with that one. That's fantastic. Okay, was there anything else you wanted to add?
Nope, just this has been a great opportunity to push some boundaries, try some new things, and our beer portfolio has been over the last few years reasonably conservative, nothing too crazy, and I mean it when I said this was the first time, and I looked into this, the first time this brewery has ever dry hopped anything, and so it's 2021. And everybody's dry hopping everything at extreme rates, and there I go with a little sprinkle, and suddenly it's like, whoa, slow down. but I mean it, like, we can put more in, and we can just keep pushing the boundaries and find out what we can do with our system, our equipment, and our brands, and just keep it interesting for our core demographic and our consumers here in Ottawa.
Excellent. Well, it's dry hopping. Welcome to the dark side. I mean, you might even end up like James, who only dry hops and doesn't add any hops outside. So that's the end of the line. Okay, I think Shane, you had some questions which you kind of wanted to.
Yeah, we had some open questions that we were hoping some of the brewers might want to field. I think it might be easiest to answer them in the chat if you would, just because of the timing associated with drawing people up and down the stage. So first question we had was, what type of characteristics would generally make you want to try a new hop?
Yeah, so that's whilst you're all sort of thinking about that or typing away. I'll just explain a little bit more about our development program, which has a few different strands. Traditionally, it's been we do a lot of the sort of traditional work that hop development programs do, which is trying to find agronomically better hops, the varieties that currently exist. So things like trying to make Goldings type. Agronomically better, yield better, better disease resistance, things like that, which has been the kind of stock in trade of hop development for years. But the piece which is kind of garners most attention, and this is the bit we're sort of talking about today, is our sort of new world varieties. And what we're trying to do is, in the nicest possible way, breed freaks. Breed hops which in a British climate can throw out some of these characteristics, throw out bigger flavors. And we're also, as Shane touched on, developing hops across Europe and in the US as well. So we're playing with all these different types of varieties in different climates and just seeing what kind of comes through. But it'd be fantastic to see what your sort of expectations are of new varieties and new hops. I mean, the fashion is for another massive tropical juice bomb, and lots of sort of pineapple and peach and mango and guava and all the rest of it. But it'd be very interesting to see what your feedback is, because actually there are lots of, not everyone wants to brew that sort of beer every time. So yeah, we've got a good comment there from James. It's about hopper. There you go. And John, it's all about big and kind of different aromas, something new, something exciting, something which kind of comes out from is not sort of available from the sort of current palette of hops. Something floral. So yeah, there's this is all excellent feedback and something something that we will definitely take back and take back to Peter and the team back in the UK and across the world and have a bit more of a play. One thing that should also be mentioned is sort of every year we're putting tens of thousands of crosses together, which after sort of weeding things out and seeing what stands up to disease and has good disease and pest resistance, and then sort of weeding out things which don't have, when we rub them, when we assess them, don't have aromas or flavors that we're particularly looking for. We're lucky out of those sort of 10, 15, 20,000 crosses per year if we get one commercial variety coming out of it. So there's a lot of trial and error, and mostly error when you're developing hops. It's no, that doesn't work, and you have to be kind of quite ruthless. There is a lot to kind of play with.
I'll put up another question if anybody feels keen to answer. This one actually was touched on a fair bit, but how does Harlequin compare to your existing image of UK hops? And I'll put the sort of the next question into it as well. Where does it fit into your mental image of hops as a whole, and what do you think it is most comparable to that's already on the market? And this just helps us to understand again what Harlequin's role might be in the brewing process and what other ingredients it might work well with.
Yep. This just to see Mike's comment there, talking about sort of some subtle notes which might work in lagers. I think potentially we have some ideas about what we'd like to obviously continue this and continue sharing these hops with Canadian brewers. And I think potentially the next hop on the that we would like to kind of bring and show to you guys and for you to have a play with would be Most from the Czech Republic. So obviously that's Sart's country, so a very traditional noble variety. The terroir is very noble, so that might be quite an interesting one to play with. Excellent. These are very good answers. Thank you, guys. There's a good question from Jeff. What sort of analysis on hop compounds are you able to provide? We're sort of, it's a good question. We're working on that, and certainly for our new varieties, which are actually we kind of name and bring forward. We are hoping to bring you quite a lot of analysis on there. I think it's a very expensive game to, as I said, we've got starting with 10,000 different seedlings to do analysis on all of them before they kind of get released. But yeah, we are looking at bringing a sort of comprehensive analysis for all our varieties, so brewers can understand a little bit more about what they're looking at. At the moment, sort of Harlequin hasn't quite been pushed on to that level where we're doing full analysis on it. But one thing that we have looked at is its oil level, which is up to sort of 1.5, 1.6. And anecdotally, a lot of the growers have said it is extremely oily hop. Certainly when they're processing it and putting it through going through their picking machines and through their kilns, they are saying that it's a particularly slick hop. But yeah, thank you for that, Jeff. That's certainly something that we are pushing forward. So brewers have got have a bit more information for them.
Gary was wondering where the Harlequin name came from.
That's a good question. I noticed that Will Rogers is on the chat, who is our global technical director back in the UK. Now, no doubt he will correct me when I say this, but Peter, who is, as mentioned, is the sort of our lead on the development program, had an idea that as a theme for our development program, kind of loosely would be sort of around sort of medieval culture and sort of chivalry, or that's a sort of jester and archer and minstrel come from that, and then you've got Harlequin as the sort of as another one there. So I think it all comes from that sort of theme in Peter's head. So not as the sort of hop come from him, but the name does as well. There you go, and then Peter's on the chat as well, so I'm sure he will. He may well correct me or add to that.
Great.
Okay.
And last but not least, I think one or two of the brewers touched on this one, but based on your experience with the hop and what you have learned from it and tasted it in today, what applications or recipes would you consider using it for in the future? Where do you feel its home might be?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think one thing that I've learned from this little experiment is that answer is a lot wider than I thought it was going to be. Before this, I had some preconceptions about where it might sit, and I've sort of known Harlequin, been roaming for a few years now, and I definitely had some preconceptions, but actually putting it in the hands of you guys who've done a fantastic job in going in different directions, it's been great. It's actually opened that up a lot. It's I think this sort of stuff is invaluable to do for us to learn, and us to be able to sort of push it forward. Yeah, absolutely. Well, a barley wine could be very interesting. Absolutely. Okay.
That's great.
Well, yeah. Please keep your questions coming. Sorry, carry on, Shane.
No, I just wanted to thank the brewers again. Donating your time and resources, and putting some thought into evaluating Harlequin and coming up with some creative uses for it and finding places for it that we may not have anticipated, that it actually works really, really well. It's been great to see the diversity of applications, and just the way that Harlequin reacts to different circumstances has been really nice, and we really appreciate all your efforts. Thank you very much for participating in this event.
Yeah, absolutely. I reiterate that it's been great to be involved in. And one thing, despite this all being, this is kind of serious, and we want to push this hop on and get it into brewers' hands. This has all been really fun as well. It shouldn't be forgotten that we're in a fantastic industry where we are all working and we're trying to earn a living, but actually we're having a lot of fun and trying to get stuff which is enjoyable into drinkers' hands. And it's great to be a part of that, and it's great to see the sort of the passion and the excitement in brewers' eyes, and when they're talking about enjoying playing with new varieties and enjoying making new beers. So that's been really fun and really enjoyable for us as well. Okay, so I think we'll start wrapping it up there. But yeah,
we did say we'd keep it to under an hour. We're at 59 minutes and 44 seconds. I think we've done pretty well.
Almost as if we'd planned it. Well, thank you very much to all the brewers, and thank you very much to all our guests for coming along. I hope you've enjoyed it, and look forward to seeing you at the next one. Many thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
Cheers. Cheers.